The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series, Bluebeam 101. Today, we're on day 3, and we'll be going through drawing management basics. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. My name is Michael Boatwright. I'm a software trainer specialist here at Bluebeam Global Services, and I'm going to be your trainer all week as we go through our webinar series, Bluebeam 101. As we're waiting for all of the participants that have registered to join us for day 3, I want to go ahead and ask a question of the day, just like we've been doing over the last few days. If you can, please reply to this question in the GoToWebinar questions panel. You're going to find that on the right-hand side of your screen. And go ahead and respond to the question, what is your favorite after-work snack? So once you've gotten off for the day and you're ready to settle down, what's your favorite go-to snack? If you can go ahead and send your answers, as I mentioned in that GoToWebinar questions panel, we greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, we're just going to wait for a few more minutes, make sure that we get all of the participants to join us, and then we'll dive in and start talking about drawing management basics. Once again, thank you all so much for joining. We'll get started shortly. All right, we are right here at the top of the hour. I am going to give it just a few more minutes because we do still have a lot of participants that are trickling in. So I greatly appreciate once again for you joining us today for day 3 of our webinar series, Bluebeam 101. Today we'll be going over drawing management basics. For those that have already joined, as we wait for everyone else to join us that is registered, I do have a question of the day. If you haven't heard it yet, the question of the day is, what is your favorite go-to after work snack? So once you're off for the day and you're ready to relax, what is your go-to favorite snack? If you can go ahead and send out those answers in the GoToWebinar questions panel, we greatly appreciate it. I have a few of my staff members from Bluebeam Global Services that will be responding to your answers. Otherwise, let's give it about another minute or so, and then we'll dive on in and get started. All right, we are coming up at about 3 minutes past the top of the hour, so I do want to go ahead and dive on in and get started, still allow a little bit of room for the remaining participants to join us. I also want to thank everyone for answering our question of the day. What is your favorite go-to snack once you get off work? We got some fantastic answers, everything from chocolate, spicy foods and Doritos, which is definitely one of my favorites, mixed nuts, guacs and chips, and so on. So thank you all so much for answering our question of the day. We always like to ask one just to kind of get our training started. It also lets you know how to communicate with us during our webinar series. So we are going to be communicating through GoToWebinar. It's going to be the lecture-based format and how we perform our Bluebeam 101 webinars. However, if you do happen to have any questions over the next 30 minutes as I go through this material, please go ahead and type those questions out in that exact same platform in that GoToWebinar questions panel. I have some fantastic staff members from Bluebeam Global Services that'll be more than happy to answer your questions as they come in from that questions panel. So once again, thank you all so much for your participation. We're about 3 minutes past the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and dive on in and get started. So once again, thank you for joining us for day 3. This is our webinar series, Bluebeam 101. Today we'll be going over drawing management basics. My name is Michael Boatwright. I'm a software training specialist here with Bluebeam Global Services, and I'm going to be your trainer all week as we perform our Bluebeam 101 webinars. Now, at the start of each one of our webinars, I always like to remind our customers that each one of these is designed to help you get a taste of what is possible in Revu. Each of the courses this week is taken from a portion of our training that is currently available for purchase. So if you're interested in learning more, you can always reach out to us at training@bluebeam.com or send us a message in the questions panel. We'll get your contact and reach out with more information at the end of the training today. Now, that being said, let's talk a little bit about our schedule this week, what we've gone through so far, and what we will continue to review in this webinar series. So on Monday, we went through our PDF markup basics. Yesterday, we went through measurement basics. Today, we're going to be switching gears a little bit and talking about drawing management basics and essentially how to work more effectively with our multi-page files. After we've concluded our drawing management basics today, tomorrow we'll dive into Studio Basics and look at our collaboration platform Studio directly in Revu. And then Friday is going to be the start of our brand new course for our Bluebeam 101 series. That's going to be Bluebeam Cloud Basics. It's going to be the first time we're performing that course, so I highly recommend attending Fridays to check out Bluebeam Cloud and all that it has to offer. I have included a lot of our social media links also on the right-hand side of your screen. We do host Bluebeam 101 and this webinar series on a monthly basis. So if you're unable to attend any of the lectures that we have this week, we will be hosting this again next month as well. So please go ahead, find one of our social media links, give us a follow, and you'll be able to stay up to date with all the announcements that we have to offer, especially the next time that we're hosting Bluebeam 101. So that's our schedule for the week. As of today, we're going through our drawing management basics. So let's talk a little bit about our agenda as well. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, the very first place that we're going to start, I'm going to talk about combining two separate documents into one multi-page document. It's a very simple function in Revu, so we'll go through it very quickly and essentially create a brand new multi-page document running that combining process. Now, once we've created that multi-page document by combining, the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to run a process called auto-labeling, essentially creating brand new page labels from scratch and then utilizing those page labels to organize my sheets within my drawing. So we're going to auto-label, we're going to run a process called AutoMark to create brand new page labels from scratch. Once we've created our page labels, I'll talk a little bit about reordering our sheets. So understanding that once we have our page labels, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to understand what sheets we have present in our drawing, as well as how to reorder those sheets later on. And then the very, very last thing that we'll talk about today is also creating bookmarks. So how can we create a bookmark report, a bookmark summary essentially directly in Revu, and how we can also utilize the bookmarks panel to also navigate through our document as well. So very document heavy today. We're going to be going through a lot of our document management principles today. So let's go ahead, let's dive on into our software and let's get started. So as you can see, I'm currently utilizing our latest and greatest software, Revu 21. Now I pointed out on day one a few of the differences between Revu 21 and our earlier versions of the software. Another difference that I'll point out is going to be that sign-in process. So I've already mentioned this a few times. When you are accessing Revu 21, you do need to sign in first. Now I've already taken the liberty and done that myself. You can see I have my username and my sign-in option all the way up here at the top. If I give that a single left click, I can see my total account information. So I can see the email that's registered for my account, the region that I'm currently working in, and the package that I have access to. So we will have 3 different packages associated with Revu 21. If you do have comparison questions or any kind of further clarification regarding Revu 21, I highly recommend checking out our website, bluebeam.com. We have some fantastic resources on all of our new software updates and availabilities there. Now, in this case, the last thing that I'll talk about that's on my screen is my profile. So unlike our first 2 days, I am actually using one of our default profiles today. So in order to access this default profile and get your screen to look just like mine, where you have your panel split between the left-hand side and the right-hand side of your screen, and these toolbars up here at the top, all you need to do is select on the Revu Advanced profile. That Revu Advanced profile is going to be accessible right up here at the Revu menu. If you give that a single left click, you can hover down here to where it says Profiles, and you're going to see I have that current Revu Advanced profile selected. I can see that little check mark over here to the left. So with this selected, so this is how I want my screen to look as I'm working. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that first function in combining documents. Now I have two separate documents that are currently open. I can see them displayed up here at the top in a tabbed format. So my first document can be called my Pasadena Airport underscore combined. And then my second tab, if I give that a left click, is going to be my MEP combined documents. You'll notice that my MEP combined documents have a total of 10 pages. And then my Pasadena Airport combined has a total of 50 pages. Now with these two separate files, how do I combine these files to create one brand new multi-page document from scratch? Well, essentially, in order to combine these two files, all I need to do is first I need to find the File menu, which is located up here at the top. I'm going to select that with a single left click, and then I'm going to hover down to this function here that says Combine. Once I select that, so this dialog is going to open up for me, and this is going to be all of my options availability when it comes to combining these two files. The first thing that I'm going to select is Add Open Files. Notice that when I select that option, those two files automatically appear here in this dialog box. I can see the file names, pathways, and total pages. Now I selected this option because of course I already had them opened up in Revu. So since they're already opened up in Revu, I select Add Open Files, and now these will be the two files that I'm combining. If I wanted to add additional files, let's say I had other files that were on my computer, maybe they're not open in Revu, but I want to add them to this combination process, I can select the option to add right here, and then I could find those additional files here on my computer and add those as well. Now below my add options, I also have some additional options for my newly combined file. Now if I were combining files that have existing bookmarks or file attachments, I could choose to include those as my brand new file. I can also choose to merge document properties or layers on these two documents before they're combined as well. And then over here on the right, I have that use file name as page label. Now in the case of today, I'm not going to select any of these options so far. I just want to run this combination process, create my new document, but I know based on these two docs, I don't have any bookmarks or file attachments. I don't want to carry over the file name as page label. That's really not going to do me much good. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select on OK. Combine these two files, and now you'll notice up here at the top, I now have three tabs. I have a brand new tab called Document 1. I have my MEP combined and my Pasadena Airport combined. All three documents still available to work in. Now I don't need these two files anymore. These are my 50 pages, my Pasadena Airport and my MEP combined. I don't need those two since I have my brand new combined document that contains all 60 pages. So now this is going to be the main one that I'm working with today. So it's going to be a very simple process how we can combine documents that are open in Revu. And now that we've combined those sheets and now we have a brand new document to work with, let's go ahead and open up the thumbnails panel and talk about navigating through this document using page labels. Now the thumbnails panel is going to be present over here on the left-hand side of the screen. It's going to look like these four squares in this icon here. In order to open up this panel, I just need to give it a single left click. And then once the panel is opened over here on the right-hand side of my screen, the left-hand side of my screen, I can actually open it up and extend the size of it. That way it's a little bit easier for me to see. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to kind of find where that panel ends and my workspace begins. Notice that as I hover over it, I can see this blue bar. If I hold a left click down with my mouse, I can kind of click and drag and bring that blue bar out. Notice that I'm making my panel wider and reducing the size of my workspace just to kind of even out the spacing on both sides. I can also, if I want to, come down here to the slider bar at the very, very bottom. This slider bar is going to allow me to manipulate the size of the thumbnails that are inside of this panel. So if I scroll down here and find this little circle inside of the slider bar, I can hold a left click and drag, just making the overall thumbnails a little bit larger and a little bit easier for me to see as I work. So now you'll notice, now within the thumbnails panel, this is going to be one of the great navigation tools for multi-page documents within Revu. In the thumbnails panel, I can see that I have a thumbnail preview of each one of these sheets. Selecting on that thumbnail preview with a left click will jump me to that sheet over here in my workspace. And then I also have some additional information as well. Below each one of those thumbnail previews, I have a page label, and I can also see the scale for the drawing. Now in this case, I'm not going to be working with scales today. We actually worked with scales yesterday. We talked about calibrating documents in our Measurements Bluebeam 101 series. But since I'm not working with scales today, I can actually turn off this particular label just so I don't want to see it. It doesn't need to take up space on my screen. In order to remove that label, all I need to do is come up here to the top of my thumbnails panel, click this drop down right here, and just turn off page scale. Notice my page scale is located here. If I give that a left click, it's simply going to disappear, and now all I see is my thumbnail preview as well as the page label. So that looks great so far. Now, you will notice that as of right now, all of my page labels are numbered. So I see a page label 1, 2, 3, and so on. As I scroll down through my document, so I see that they're all currently numbered. And then when I get to the very bottom here, it kind of changes. So after page 50, it looks like my labels change. So now I have mechanical combined, plumbing combined, and so on. So I have two different meanings with these labels and how all of my sheets are categorized and labeled in my thumbnails panel. And honestly, neither of them are very helpful. I don't really know what's on page 50, what's on page 49 or 47, and I don't know the differences between these three plumbing combined sheets as well. I can slightly tell from these thumbnail previews, but it's just not a really good way when it comes to navigating through these documents. So I want to change what these labels represent and how they're structured on my document. So how can I change all of these labels at one time without having to manually do one label at a time? Well, essentially what I'm going to do today is I'm going to find existing content, existing wording on each one of these sheets, and I'm going to use that content to create brand new page labels. So let's see exactly how that's done. Well, the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm kind of navigate through my pages, and I'm going to notice in the bottom right-hand corner of each sheet, oops, excuse me, let me zoom in here. I have a sheet title and a sheet number. So here's my sheet number, and here's my sheet title. You'll also notice that as I navigate to different sheets, notice that the sheet title and the sheet number are always in the same location, that bottom right-hand corner of the sheet. Now, because of that, I'm going to use the existing sheet title and sheet numbers already present on the pages to create my page labels. So how do I run this process? Well, once I've identified the locations of where these numbers and where these titles are located, the next thing that I'm going to do is come back over to my thumbnails panel and select on this icon right here. It's going to kind of look like a rectangle with a little orange sunburst at the very bottom. I'm going to give that icon a single left click. This pop-up is going to come up asking me to create page labels, and it's going to give me a few different options. So now in this case, I can create page labels from existing bookmarks. I don't have any bookmarks, so I'm not going to be able to use that option. But my second option here, I'm going to use this page region option. So I'm going to keep that selection here. And I can also choose the page range where I'm running this function. In this case, I'm going to run this for all 60 sheets, since all 60 sheets have the same exact sheet title and number in that bottom right-hand corner. But if you're working with a very large file set, and maybe perhaps the sheet title and sheet number are on different locations depending on the page, you can also click this drop down here and change it to a custom range, or even run this function for the current page that you're on. Either way, once you've made your page range selected, I'm going to go ahead next to my page region here, I'm going to click on the select button. Now, once I click on select, notice that my cursor has now changed. I now have a crosshair for my cursor, indicating to me that I'm now ready to select my page region where I'm going to be creating my brand new page label. So in this case, I want all of my page labels over here in the thumbnails panel. I want all of them to start with the sheet number. So because I want them all to start with a sheet number, I'm going to create a region around this sheet number. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner where I want my region to start. I'm going to hold a left click down with my mouse, and then I'm going to click and drag. With that crosshair, creating a region. Keeping in mind, and notice how I'm creating a very large region. I'm leaving a little bit of extra space above and below the number, as well as to the left and the right. This just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. As each region on each sheet is detected, if this sheet number is maybe a little bit higher or a little bit lower than this original selection, it'll still get picked up. I'll show you exactly what that looks like. But once I've created my region and I like where it's located, I'm going to go ahead and let go of my left click down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Automark has been run. Up here, my selection is now called Region 1, and Revu is often offering me a preview. It's saying, okay, I've detected the text in that region, and I found that it says A1.2.0. So that's perfect. That's exactly how I want my page labels to first be structured. But I also want to add additional content on my page labels. I also want to see the sheet title as well. So I want to create an additional region. So what I'm going to do first is up here in the selection box, I'm going to go ahead and give that a left click, and then I'm going to add a space, a dash, and a space. That way in my preview, you're going to see that dash and that space here. And then now I'm going to select add to add a brand new region. So go ahead and select that option as well. Once again, I have my crosshair. And then just like we did for our sheet number, I'm going to do the exact same thing for our sheet title. I'm going to start up here in the top left-hand corner, hold a left click down and click and drag. Encompass that entire title, leaving myself a little bit of extra room. Let go down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And now once again, I have my two selections, region 1 and region 2, and I have a preview of how that page label is now going to be structured, with that sheet number coming first, that dash that I manually created, and then that sheet title. So that looks fantastic. This is exactly how I want my new page labels to look, so I'm going to go ahead and select OK. I'm going to run this function now and go ahead and select OK here as well on all pages. And so now Revu is detecting those two regions on each one of my sheets. So it's looking on all 60 pages, it's pulling that sheet number, it's pulling that sheet title, and now you'll see over here in my thumbnails panel, I have brand new page labels to work with, all structured exactly the same with that sheet number and that sheet title. So that looks fantastic so far. So notice once again, those regions were selected on every page and are now reflected as those brand new page labels, making my thumbnails panel a lot easier for me to navigate within. Now, I did run into a little problem though. On my cover page here, my first sheet, notice that I only have that manual dash. And the reason being is that when those two regions in that bottom right-hand corner were selected, there was no content found. You'll notice I have no information, no wording down here. So because of that, I need to manually create this page label over here in my thumbnails panel. In order to change something manually, all I need to do is double click on the label itself. So I'll click twice. It's going to give me this little dialog box here in the center of the thumbnail. And then from there, I can manually type out my label. So in this case, I'm going to label it G0.01 with that dash, and then I'll call it cover page. Once I'm done with that selection, I can go ahead and just click out. It's going to give me my brand new page label. That looks fantastic, and now it's structured like the rest of my sheets. So my sheets look great so far, so I can kind of continue scrolling down if I need to, making sure everything looks good, making sure that all those regions were detected, that I don't have any mistakes made, so my architectural sheets look great. As I continue down, it looks like I have a duplication here, so it looks like one mistake was made. Once again, in order to correct that manually, all I need to do is double click on that label, highlight that sheet number, delete it, and then click out. And then it's going to be manually corrected for me. So everything else looks good so far, so now I have all of my page labels accounted for. Now I can also verify to make sure that everything's in the correct order. So notice that I have an order already structured here on my cover page for how my sheets are supposed to look. So it's supposed to go my general, my civil, architectural, all the way through to plumbing. So I can double verify now that all of my sheet numbers and sheet labels are corrected and available here at my thumbnails panel, I can kind of double verify and make sure that all sheets are accounted for and that they're all in the proper order. So as I scroll through once again to kind of audit, I see that all of my civil sheets are first, then I see my architectural sheets start, so that looks great so far as well. After my architectural sheets, I can see that I have my structural sheets, but then it looks like I run into a little bit of problem. So after my structural sheets, according to my cover page, I'm supposed to have my electrical, my mechanical, and my plumbing. Well, in this case, it looks like I only have one mechanical sheet, so I'm actually missing some mechanical sheets, and they're also in the improper order. So I need to go ahead, I need to reorder these sheets and find where these page labels, these missing mechanical sheets are located. So let's say I contact one of the engineers that I work with, and I ask, okay, it looks like we're missing 3 mechanical sheets. Where are they located? Well, once they're found, my engineer will email them over to me, and now I want to insert them into my document. In order to insert them into my document, very simply, I just need to pull up my thumbnails menu in here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click, scroll down here to where it says Insert Pages, and notice I already have my sheets saved on my computer, so I can simply left-click on each one. Once they're selected, I'm going to select on Open, and I'm going to insert them into my brand new document. So I have my sheets located over here. I saved them from that email my engineer sent me over, and now I'm just going to simply insert them. I'm also going to select on that option to use file name as page label. Essentially what's going to happen is Revu is going to detect what each one of those file names are and create brand new page labels from them. And in this case, I'm going to bring them after the very last page. That's where I'll insert them on my document. So that's where I'm going to be inserting them from. I'm going to use that file name as page label. So let's go ahead and insert these pages now. And now I have these 3 sheets down here. At the bottom, I'm missing mechanical sheets. Well, so the next thing that I notice is that they are also in the incorrect rotation. So now I need to rotate them before I reorder these sheets in my drawing. So how do I correct the rotation for each one of these sheets? Well, it's going to be a very similar process. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure they're all selected before I rotate. So in order to select them all, I'm going to left click on the first one. Once I see that blue rectangle around the thumbnail, I'll know that it's selected. And then I'm going to hold the shift key down and select on the last one. Notice that while holding that shift key and selecting the last one, it's going to select all 3 for me, and they all have that blue rectangle around it, indicating they've all been selected. And then once again, I'm going to pull up that thumbnails menu by right-clicking, and in this case, I'm going to select on the function of rotate pages. So I'm going to go ahead and select rotate pages. I have my selection reflected over here, and I'm going to choose my direction in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and click this drop down, and let's rotate this counterclockwise 90 degrees. Once I've done so, you'll notice that those thumbnails have now been rotated, so now all of those pages are in the correct rotation. And then the very last thing that we can do is we can reorganize these sheets. So in order to reorder my sheets, all I need to do, once again, is select all 3 of these. So I'm going to hold my shift key down, left click, make sure to have that blue rectangle around all of these thumbnails, and then I'm going to click and drag to reorder these sheets. So I'm going to hold a left click over this thumbnail, drag, and as I drag, notice I have this blue indicator in between these thumbnails. This is just indicating to me where these sheets will be dropped at. So in this case, I want to bring it about right here, let go, and then now I have all of my mechanical sheets all accounted for, and then all in the correct order as well. So that's going to be how I can click and drag to move these sheets around within my drawing and reorder them as such. So that's going to be how we can insert sheets, how we can reorder them, and then how we can rotate them once they're present here in our thumbnails panel. And then the very, very next thing that I want to do now that we have all of our sheets accounted for and they're all in the correct order is I want to move on and talk about bookmarks. So I'm going to come back up here to the very top. I have my thumbnails panel, which is going to serve as a really great way for me to navigate through this drawing. But another great navigation tool in Revu to work through your multi-page drawings is going to be with bookmarks. Now the bookmarks panel is also located over here on the left. In my case, it's right underneath my thumbnails panel. A quick tip if you are getting accustomed to your panels in Revu and you're still memorizing what each one of these icons represent. If you hover over the panel bar, either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of your screen, if you right-click on that panel bar, you can hover over that menu and where it says Show. From there, you're actually going to see all of the current panels that are available to you in Revu. You're going to see their associated icons, their titles, as well as their keyboard shortcuts. So I highly recommend this for new users who are getting accustomed to all the different panels and their functions within Revu. Now, in my case, I'm going to go ahead and select on this bookmarks once again, and let's talk about how we can create bookmarks. In order to create bookmarks, I'm going to go ahead. The first option is to just select this little symbol right here that says Add Bookmark. Notice with a single left click, it's going to automatically create a bookmark for me, and that bookmark is associated with what page I'm currently on. So I was on my cover page. When I select this Add Bookmark, it creates one bookmark for my cover page. As I scroll through, let's say I get over to page 5, and I want to create a quick bookmark for here. Once again, once I have that page selected here in my workspace, I can select this option and create a brand new one from there as well. With bookmarks, as I'm creating them, all I need to do is left click on each and it'll automatically jump me to those sheets. But what if I wanted a faster process in creating bookmarks? What if I did not want to do it one at a time with this function here? Instead, I wanted to create bookmarks for all the sheets in my drawing. Well, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete these 2 very quickly. So I'm going to delete these. Instead, I want to create a mass amount of bookmarks, one that represents each one of the sheets on my drawing. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select on this second option right here to create bookmarks. You're going to see it has that bookmark symbol and it's going to have a little blue sunburst at the top. I'm going to give that a single left click. It's going to open up this dialog asking me how I want to create my bookmarks. Notice that I have a same function. I can actually select my page region just like we did for our labels and create my bookmarks that way. But I don't need to do that extra work. I already have page labels. I like the structure of my page labels. So in this case, I'm actually going to create all my bookmarks using those existing page labels, and I'm going to make that page range all pages that I'm working with. So let's go ahead and see what this is going to look like. I'm using my page labels to create those bookmarks. I'm using all pages. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And then notice that once I've done that, I now have a bookmark represented for each one of the sheets in my drawing. I can now give each one of these a single left click, and they're going to automatically navigate to me to those sheets within my drawing. One of the great things about bookmarks, so you have this list format of all of your sheets. It makes it very easy to see all the titles and labels of your sheets kind of in one singular list without looking at their thumbnails. And you can also manipulate the bookmarks without affecting your drawing. So in this case, in this example, I'll go ahead, I'm going to delete all of my architectural bookmarks. I don't need to utilize any of them. Maybe I'm not utilizing the architectural sheets right now. Well, if I select on the first one, hold my Shift key down and select the last one, I can right click on all of my architectural sheets, select on delete. That way it reduces the amount of bookmarks that I'm working with. But notice that if I hover back over to my thumbnails panel here, all of my architectural sheets are still accounted for. So deleting the bookmarks, replacing the bookmarks isn't going to affect the document itself. The bookmarks only serve as links to the pages. So deleting or manipulating those links will not overall affect your document in any way. So another great advantage of bookmarks. One of the last things that we'll do here, I'll go ahead and very quickly save our document. And then one of the last things that we'll do to close out for today is export these bookmarks into a bookmark summary. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on this arrow down here where it says bookmarks. I'm going to select on the option to export bookmarks. And I'm going to create a bookmark PDF summary. So my document will be titled, so it's going to be _bookmarks document 1. I'm going to go ahead and choose the tree style for my bookmark summary. I also have an index style. It's going to associate page numbers as well, but the tree style is going to look very, very similar to how my bookmarks panel looks over here. I can choose the output folder where it's being saved to, but all of that looks good. I'm just going to save it into my documents. And I also want to open up that file after creation. So I'm going to go ahead, let's save this and open up that bookmark summary and see exactly what it looks like. Well, now I have my bookmark summary located here. Notice that it's a completely separate PDF. It's located on a separate tab. But now I've used those bookmarks to essentially create hyperlinks to each one of these sheets. And then now utilizing these hyperlinks, I can left click and jump to those individual sheets on my drawing. I could even take this one step further and combine these two documents. Just like we did at the beginning of this course, I can come up to the File menu here, select on that option to combine, and then add my open files to combine both. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to put my bookmarks up here at the top. I'm not going to use my file name as page label. I don't want to change any of my page labels. I'm essentially just inserting that bookmark summary into the document. And then I'm going to select OK. And so now I have a brand new document, titled Document 1 here. My first page is my bookmark summary, but as I scroll through, notice that I have all my additional sheets as well. So if essentially not only have I created bookmarks for that document, I've now exported those and created essentially a hyperlinked table of contents that I can now utilize selecting through each one of these sheets to automatically jump me to that page within the document. Another great advantage of bookmarks, the ability to be able to export those out as links and then reattach it to your document and utilize those links that way as well. Now, I do know that's a lot of information. We do have to close out for the day, so I do want to thank you all so much for joining on day 3 as we talked about document manipulation. Just as a very quick conclusion, so first things first, I thank you all once again so much for joining. I hope that you were able to take away something new about Revu today. As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, this whole training is just a small portion of our training packages that are available for purchase. So if you have a group or department that's looking to get up to speed on Revu, we have live trainers that can walk you through all the different workflows of Revu, have dedicated time to practice important features, and give you a chance to ask questions throughout the course. So if that's something that you're looking for or could benefit from, please reach out to us at training@bluebeam.com, or you can also find the resources banner at bluebeam.com. If you are an individual and you're looking for more training on Revu, our Bluebeam University is also a great option to get up to speed. For Revu 21 users, if you have Revu 21, you already have access to Bluebeam University for free. However, if you are not a subscription user and would like to try out Bluebeam University, keep an eye out for the GoToWebinar email for an access code that will give you access to Bluebeam University until the end of the year. So that is correct. If you are joining me this week for Bluebeam 101, you will have access to Bluebeam University for free up until the end of the year. So keep an eye out for that GoToWebinar email that's going to be sent over directly to you, and you'll have an access code to get access to Bluebeam University and practice a lot of these important functions in there as well. A part of Bluebeam University, we've also launched a separate new certification called Bluebeam Certified Professional. You can find out a lot more information on the Bluebeam Certified Professional and the exam at Bluebeam University. Upon passing that exam, the Bluebeam Certified Professional exam, you are awarded with a digital badge that you can share on your LinkedIn as an official Bluebeam Certified Professional. So keep an eye out for that when you access Bluebeam University for free until the end of the year. And then very lastly, I know that we have some open questions, so I am going to keep the webinar open for just another minute or so to allow for any remaining questions or to wrap up any existing conversations happening in the questions window. And there will also be 3 survey questions once you close out of here that we greatly appreciate you answering. Once again, I hope you were able to take away something valuable about Revu and also are able to join us tomorrow as we go through Studio Basics. Once again, I've been Michael Boatwright, and thank you all so much for joining me today.